Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 56 today for the British Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one uploaded just yesterday, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But going into this episode, then as per usual, coming to the British Grand Prix, halfway through the season pretty much, we've now got our contract renewal here for our teammate. Of course, we've had no qualms with Max Verstappen. Of course, he's won 2 races in a row now, so obviously we are going to re-signing him for this season. I haven't totally decided what we'll be doing after this season into Season 4, but we'll kind of get to that later. We've got more important things at hand. There's still a long way to go in this season and championship, and of course things are hotting up as Verstappen has won 2 races in a row. He's now only 12 points behind us in the championship, so we're going to focus on that, just re-sign him, and we'll think about all that other admin for our team later down the line. But you saw there, just went for the medium risk, the same exact market value he was when we had to re-sign him. Basically didn't go for that, the higher risk one to maybe try and lowball him, just in case he didn't like that. So, I mean, we've got the money, we don't exactly have a shortage, but what is very interesting and a shock to me is, whilst we signed Max Verstappen, re-signed him to the team, Ferrari have changed their driver lineup. Alongside Leclerc, no more is De Vries, making his debut in Formula 1 this season. Very, very harsh of Ferrari. They've booted him out, and they've signed the Ferrari junior driver. Kind of makes sense in a way, but Antonio Giovinazzi, who was driving for Alfa Romeo, of course, alongside George Russell. Now it's De Vries in the Williams car, and Latifi has gone across to Alfa Romeo. So De Vries has still found his feet in Formula 1, so I'm kind of happy about that, because that would have been very harsh for him to debut in F1 and then just be immediately booted back down to a free agent. So he's still in the sport. He's now driving for Williams. Latifi moves across to Alfa Romeo to replace the outgoing Giovinazzi, but Ferrari have thought De Vries not good enough in this first half of the season, and they're going to test out Antonio Giovinazzi, which is intriguing because technically on paper, Giovinazzi is 75 rated, De Vries is 79. Obviously, De Vries has got some natural training from Ferrari, so maybe with some natural training for Gio, he can be a little bit higher than that. But also at the same time, you've got to remember, Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo car has been pretty okay as of late. Both Alfa Romeos, Russell and him, were performing quite well this season at times and were surprising me of how well they were doing. So maybe they've gone for that gamble. They see something in Giovinazzi, but I was very surprised because I really didn't think there was going to be a mid-season transfer for an AI team. Ever since they brought in driver transfers at the very start of F1 2019, it was really quite chaotic, and then they brought that patch in that kind of made things a bit more realistic, a bit more boring, in my opinion, and you never really saw too many wild mid-season changes. But we've got 3 here, 3 drivers swapping seats in this kind of musical chairs version of Formula 1, and so that's very exciting to see, because I'm very intrigued to see how Giovinazzi does, because De Vries at times didn't look too great in that Ferrari car. We know it's in the hands of Leclerc, has been a race-winning car, and is able to get up there into the podium positions, but in the last few races, to be fair to him, he did actually perform quite well against Leclerc. I know Leclerc got unlucky a few times with some incidents and penalties and whatnot, but he was still doing a pretty good job in the last few episodes, I must say. So quite harsh actually for Ferrari to still boot him. But obviously the sport is just very cruel like that. Sometimes you don't get much breathing room, especially if you're in the likes of Ferrari. You're going to get cut straight away. They're very harsh. So yeah, that's going to be a very weird dynamic, but intriguing nonetheless all to see how we go. But in towards this race weekend then, we've got some days to work with on the activity timeline. We've gone ahead and purchased a tyre upgrade there. Off the back of last episode, I felt, you know what, we have a bit more tyre wear upgrade. If we have a little bit less tyre wear in the races, we could have some interesting dynamics in some of the strategies maybe later on. So it's a small minor upgrade in that kind of sense. I still don't believe we need to do too many upgrades. Our car is still the fastest car on the grid. There is no point out upgrading everyone if we know there's going to be a regulation change, or if there is going to be one. We don't know yet, but I don't want to take that chance. So just being cautious. Doing another durability upgrade, ironically, even though our car is still a bit shaky here and there, but here's hoping that goes some way to hopefully help. That was the MGUH it was, which was very worn out, to be fair, on the first column we used on the engine side of things, so hopefully that will help us out in the remainder of the engine parts we've got towards the end of this season and keeps it a nice fair fight between myself, Verstappen, and whoever else is out there. But, Verstappen, 2 wins in a row. I said this at the end of that last episode. Are we in trouble? Is this another kind of Leclerc from Season 2. Will he go on? Because I said this about Ocon, but the difference is Ocon is so much less rated than the likes of Leclerc and Verstappen. Like, Verstappen is 100 rated. I'm pretty sure Leclerc was 100 rated when he was winning all those races last season. So the difference between him and Ocon situation is I think he actually could legit go out there and actually get a string of wins, and then we're in issues because, you know, Leclerc, that was alien-like in the last season, and so far, apart from France, the 2 other races, you know, what was it, Hanoi and last episode, Austria, Verstappen was just in control. He was dominating that entire thing. You know, he did a 2-stop versus everyone else doing a 1-stop, and he still dominated and looked so comfy in that race. So you've got to be a little bit worried about that. But at the moment, then getting through into qualifying, then in the race weekend, Q1, obviously just getting through this sessions there, a little bit lower down. Verstappen, though, setting an early benchmark right at the top there. But interesting to see Giovinazzi down in P9, but how will he fare once we get him through into Q2 and Q3 and everything winds up? But for us, though, some more niggling issues into Q2 with a small sensor fault to kick things off.
Right, we've lost telemetry. We've lost pretty much all sensor information. It's being looked into now, so just bear with it for a few minutes if you can, please.
So it really is very ironic, I feel, that we keep upgrading durability consistently in the last few episodes, but I have done pretty much for the entire season, and we're still getting these small little issues, so still needing to work on that and kind of hope that doesn't crop in, but we now go through into Q2. Now, I said, you know, obviously, it's an important race. We need to try something to stop Verstappen and hopefully try and destabilize him a little bit. It's also my home Grand Prix, which, of course, we've not really had too much luck at for most of the time on this game. Season 1, the game broke going into this episode, and I had to save the episode by using a backup save, and then also we had to take some engine penalties because we made some mistakes there. And then second time round, we had that massive spin at the very start of the race. We had to recover in the Grand Prix. Well, I'm here to tell you, it really looks like this home GP of ours, on this game at least, is very much our bogey circuit. I'm doing a Jensen Button. Things just can't go right for me at Silverstone, because what happens, a crucial weekend where I need to perform well against Verstappen, and I've forgotten to change my engine components. I changed them round to column 1 in practice to use them as practice parts, and then we get to qualifying, and it's the simple case of the game doesn't warn you about it, it just lets you go to qualifying, and we've done it. It's yeah. So there's nothing I can really say. We're going to improve our lap time, to be fair, actually, on the second lap there, because I was a little bit slow through the last few corners. And so we're going to improve by about 2.5 tenths. It's going to get us up into P7, but it won't actually be enough. But you can see on the bottom right, the MGH especially is nearly at 100% more, 92% internal combustion engine also. You can see so many more people setting in faster laps, and very quickly we're down and out of the top 10, and we're going to qualify in P14. And obviously it's going to be last place, because we're going to have to break Parc Fermé and change all these components back to some actual ones that are going to have some performance. So it's, yeah, not a great start to the race weekend, and I can already hear some of the moaning comments potentially about that mistake, but I'm adamant it's a very easy mistake to make, especially if you're someone who's making a video and wanting trying to get through the menus as quickly as possible to get through to qualifying. They should really have a warning of, are you sure you've got some components that are over 80% worn? Are you sure you want to use these for qualifying? Especially because this is the first game they've actually enforced the Parc Fermé rule. Historically, for the last few F1 games, they've never actually enforced the Parc Fermé rule. You've always been able to change freely between quali and the race, as long as you're in your allocation of parts you've already got and own. So I feel like in tandem, if they're going to enforce it, you may as well also put a little warning for players if they're clicking through the menus quite quickly, as I do a lot of the time, about that. So that's a bit of a shame. As I said, it looks like it's meant to be. It just isn't meant to be our circuit, really. So we're going to have to go into Sunday just knowing we're at the back and there's nothing we can do. Just have to firm it and just go as quickly as we can. Let's see if Verstappen gets pole. If he does, then it should indicate we have a pretty good race car. It's just a different question if I can actually use that pace then in anger for the first time, really, with no worn engine components on Sunday. Let's go to the grid.
We return once again then to the home of British motorsport and the birthplace of the Formula One World Championship. It's race day here at Silverstone, and it's time for the British Grand Prix. The 3.6 miles of the Silverstone circuit in Great Britain is hallowed ground to the Formula One faithful. we have 18 corners that wrap around this former World War II airbase, and some good passing opportunities at the end of the DRS zones. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Why don't we discuss McLaren? What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and talented Spaniard Carlos Sainz completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Ricciardo, Giovinazzi, Lando Norris, and Ocon, Bottas, Gasly, Perez, and Alexander Albon. Kvyat, Leclerc, they've taken a grid penalty. Lewis Hamilton and Russell, Latifi, Matsushita, Lance Stroll, and Kevin Magnussen. Grosjean, Aitken, De Vries, and the owner-driver rounds off the grid. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So in his very first race then for Ferrari, Giovinazzi will start ahead of Leclerc, only due to a penalty though. Leclerc had a 10th-place penalty from P2, I think it was, so Giovinazzi starts in P4 on the second row, but that's still a pretty sweet thing to have, you know, your first race, building confidence, so I'm actually genuinely looking forward to seeing how he does, and I hope he does quite well in that car alongside Leclerc, because I think it's very much like a Red Bull real-life situation. You know, it's hard to go up against Verstappen in real life, whoever's in that second car. In this game, you know, if you think about it, Leclerc was so mega at the end of last season. It's kind of that same situation. It's so tough to match what he did at the end of last season, what he's generally been doing when the car doesn't fail him this season. It's always going to be tough. But, you know, second row, I think he can go quite well. But hopefully we'll see him and the likes of those guys up front a little bit later in this race, because from last place here, you know, I'm going to be driving with a bit of anger here, because it's the home GP. It's the third time in a row here in seasons where something's gone wrong, either my own doing or just some bad luck or the game breaking, and I've had enough. I want that podium at least. We can't go for the race win, I don't think. That'll be absolutely truly bonkers and a miracle if we can, but I want to go for the podium, because I think with Verstappen on pole, he'll probably dominate this race, I would say, but if we can try and get a podium, I think this is the best chance we have. We do have a car that could go from last to the podium, I feel, as long as we don't get held up in traffic. That's the big if today. And so in light of that, I'm going to change around my strategy a little bit, and we're going to start on the medium tyre. Now, that will hinder us at the start initially, but as soon as these guys start to face some tyre wear on those soft tyres, I will be much faster. It'll be a much better race tyre to be on. And then also at the end, on lower fuel, my soft tyres will perform better, because it's just generally a lighter car. It's being pushed in a little bit less into the ground below us. So that is the plan and goal today, from last place to our very first podium at our home race. Let's go do this thing. And we now go to 5 red lights here at Silverstone, halfway through the season pretty much, and we're at the back of the grid for our home Grand Prix. Lights are out and we're underway. It's a good start for us, but of course we've got a wall of cars ahead of us, and we're going to get boxed in on the inside, having some flashbacks to season 2 here on the inside, taking it a lot easier this time, and we managed to survive turn 1 now around the outside of Romain Grosjean and to the inside of many cars there. 3 in fact village there up into P16, trying to hustle and harry the car round the outside of the Alfa Romeo cars. Latifi in his new gear, and also Russell as well. We're already now up into P14 as we go down the straight towards Le Field. This is a really, really great start. That's exactly what we needed. Essentially, we're back to where we were. This is where we qualified. So this is square one now. So that's exactly what we needed. So now I'm a lot more confident we can actually do this. From here, if we started from here, there's no doubt in my mind we could have got a podium. That's how quick our car is in theory. Obviously, you just need to show it and actually have some race pace hopefully today. Verstappen obviously was on pole. He leads the way right now. I'm sure he's already got a bit of a gap here. So this is where our race begins. We get to work and try and find our way through. But of course, we've got the likes of Leclerc ahead of us, who should be pretty quick, but at the same time, obviously on this game, you know, sometimes the AI can get caught up in traffic, so let's see. It might be quite an easy overtake. We'll have to find out, but we go down the inside of Hamilton, and that is somewhat easy overtake. Bit of a issue on the rear end there, stepping out. I have to go defensive on our fellow Brit on the inside there, but he's not going to really hound us too much. That Mercedes car and him haven't really been a great combo this season so far, and they continue to not be. But we now move on to lap number 3. Leclerc is indeed caught up behind traffic. To be fair, though, to him, Fiat in the works Renault car, they've been improving so much this season, and they have looked very quick at times, especially in a straight line, so not too surprised at Leclerc being held up, but we're going to go for the dive. We're going to catch him napping to the inside of that left-hander through the right, side by side, use the ERS overtake mode on the outside into the last corner. Great little overtake there on our old championship rival from last season. I guess still this season, of course, but Leclerc floundering there a little bit in the traffic, so that's going to be the intriguing thing. Giovinazzi might have a very good chance of beating his new teammate the first time of asking here, because Leclerc, he might unfortunately, quite unrealistically, just have that classic thing where they just get caught up in a DRS train on the game and they just can't break it. But that remains to be seen. We'll give him some time to see about that, but we're going to go for a move on Fiat. But look at this, the Russian gives us a good old fight in towards the field now through the long right-hander, trying to go the long way around. But like I said, that works Renault team, they've really been improving this season quite rapidly, actually, from where they began. And you know, I said they might be a force to reckon with, you know, for some of the midfield guys, but even for us now, having to really go hammering on with Fiat, and we just get that done at the old turn 1 cops. But it is a much bigger fight than I ever expected with the Russian there. So, yeah, kudos to Renault. We'll see how they go. Obviously, maybe us having their engine supply, maybe it's boosted them. They've been trying to copy us, potentially, like a racing point have to Mercedes in real life. I don't know. But as it stands now in this Grand Prix, Verstappen does indeed lead the way ahead of Carlos Sainz and then Ricciardo. So the two Red Bulls looking very strong race pace-wise. Then you've got Ocon sandwiching Giovinazzi with Lando Norris there. So Gio a little bit slow from his P4 position. And the McLaren's picking up some race pace as they kind of did in Austria. So not too surprised at that. Behind them, though, then you've got that whole gaggle of cars of Bottas, AlphaTauri, of Gasly. You've got Albon right ahead of me, and then behind, Leclerc has now cleared Fiat as we move into lap number 5. So maybe Leclerc just need a bit of encouragement by seeing my car clear some cars, and now he's kind of getting through them as he kind of technically should, being in that pretty quick Ferrari, obviously, as we've seen so far this season. But for me, trying to get past Albon, I don't know what it is this season with Albon, but he seems to be just a thorn in my side. I can't get past him as easily as I want to here, having to back out that into cops on the exit. Luffield got the rear end, stepped out, had to catch that before putting it onto the grass. So again, the car as ever on edge, and so it's a miracle I'm keeping it in a straight line for a lot of these corners sometimes, and I'm just hoping this time around we don't have a snap of oversteer that's going to send us sideways. Hopefully not, because we've already had enough pain anyway of starting in the back of this race. But here we go in a straight line, though. Our car is flying along to the inside, very confident, under braking there, and easily taking that corner then on the exit up into P10 for the first time in this race. 6 laps gone, so 20 to go. P10. I think we're still making good progress for that P3. Just need to keep this pace up and get through these cars as quickly as we can. And this area of the circuit, it seems like the AI aren't deploying too much ERS on this back straight compared to me. Like, I seem to be saving more for that straight versus them. They seem to be deploying it way more in Sector 1. So that seems to be a really easy place to pass them with DRS especially as well. The car just seems to just gain so much pace once they get in that slipstream of theirs. So we're easily able to get past Sergio Perez, set fast after the Grand Prix even, because we go red first sector. That's where I lose all my time. Then green second and third. And we've set the fast after the Grand Prix so far. Also showing that kind of, you know, thing I said about, you know, once these guys hit the tyre wear, which is pretty much now on these softs, my mediums are now actually the quickest tyre on the circuit. So that's why I'm able to set a purple lap time, and why we're going to fly past Gasly now again on this same back straight. So the second AlphaTauri this afternoon we overtake. The two AlphaTauris looking pretty good, to be fair to them, in the top 10. Actually, I didn't point out that they've been a little bit nowhere as of late. They started off strong. They were so strong throughout the entirety of Season 2, but they really haven't been a top 10 contender for most of this Season 3. But nice to see them up there again. But we're now going to catch up to Valtteri Bottas, lap number 8, and it is a slam dunk overtake. The third one I've made like that in 3 laps. So with that kind of progress, by lap 15, we'll be in first place then. But of course, it's a little bit trickier than that, because now we're pretty much at the actual top cars, really. You know, you've got McLarens, Ferraris, Red Bulls, these guys will be harder to pass. Saying that though, Norris and Giovinazzi actually come in on cue just as I close up to them. So those two going for a bit of an undercut. Of course, they're on the soft tyres. The only people out here on mediums are myself, Leclerc, and actually, funnily enough, my teammate, who's also there. So Verstappen was actually the only one in the top 10 starting this race on mediums, and so he's going to have the same advantage as I do, and as Leclerc does, is we'll pick up the pace. And so now we close up to Ocon, who's struggling through that Copse corner on the right hand, and into Beckett, who's going to be bang tyres. Ocon with such an aggressive defence. We go across the curb and the grass a little bit, trying to keep that through. So Ocon hardly gives me any room to work with. We're fully alongside him there. Like, he definitely saw me in the mirrors. There's no way he's going to cut me off into Beckett. And so, yeah, we just forced the move there, but wasn't having any of that. There was no way he was going to scare me off the road into that entry point. But, yeah, on lap 13 then, Verstappen is now in. Leclerc, to my surprise, comes in as well as we lock up and go a little bit too wide there and to lose some time. But I was surprised to see Verstappen and Leclerc come in so early, because my engineers have told me to go to lap 16. So the only explanation might be that they're doing a one-stop, but they're not actually confident enough in their tyre wear that they're going to go to a set of hard tyres, whereas I definitely am going to a set of softs, and that's confirmed to us on lap 16. As I said, when I plan to make my pit stop, 10 laps to go, I'll come in on softs, but on the top left, you would have seen there, just before we cut away to the replay camera, Verstappen is on hard tyres, so I don't know what's that about. Hopefully, like I said, you know, the tyre upgrade we just purchased this episode, maybe those sort of upgrades will encourage Verstappen to make those bolder strategy calls and go onto the softs, because I think I can definitely do it. It's just a case of maybe he doesn't feel the car and him together can't do that. I don't know, but he's on hard tyres, but it doesn't matter. He's got so much pace in this race that I doubt anyone will be challenging him for first place. But the big question mark for us will be, where do we feed out in all of this? Because, of course, before the pit stops, we are just behind Norris and Giovinazzi. So what is that pit stop strategy, that difference in tyre wear, come out to be as we come out the pit lane on the left-hand side? There's the Ferrari of Giovinazzi, and he's just ahead of us. We're going to make a dive into Village, the right-hander, now the left, trying to go the long way around. Gio pinched in, he hits the curb and unsettles the car, and we get the job done on the outside up into P5, a crucial overtake to get in clean air to now chase after the cars ahead of Ricciardo and Lando Norris. But here we go, Leclerc via Giovinazzi, the first time these two have been teammates in the red car. Giovinazzi on the inside, Leclerc trying to go the long way round. This is such a tasty battle to watch. First time of asking Giovinazzi in the Ferrari, and he's putting up a great fight, and he will fend off Leclerc for now. Obviously, they're on different tyre compounds. I believe Leclerc is on the mediums. I can't quite tell. No, he's on the hard tyre, so he's joined Verstappen. So I don't know really what Verstappen and Leclerc are playing as. He tries to go on the outside there, on the left, down that back straight, but Gio just cuts him off. So yeah, I don't know what Leclerc and Verstappen are playing at. They definitely should have the tyre wear, or have the, you know, the chassis in the car to make the tyre wear work for the soft tyres, but they've just gone very, very safe. But it won't matter, because eventually Leclerc is going to wind this up. He looks rapid off that corner and into Beckett on the inside there. He's going to get the move done. There's still side by side though. Gio keeps his foot in for a half that section at least, but Leclerc gets it, and eventually the more senior man in the team, of course, even though he's actually younger than Giovinazzi, the more senior man obviously being at the team for longer, is passed. And obviously Gio put up a good fight, but in the end it just wasn't meant to be. But whilst that was occurring, lap number 18, so a bit of a weird dynamic with the showing you the clips here. So this is still whilst Gio and Leclerc were fighting. This was me looking for an overtake on Ricciardo. We go for the pounds. Very easy move, to be fair, because we've got the soft tyre compound, he's got the hards on, so there's a 2 tyre compound difference there. And so we're up into P4, and now we can chase after one Lando Norris. And it's going to be interesting to see how Leclerc goes. Can he close up and also overtake Ricciardo? So, you know, both me and Leclerc were recovering from this Grand Prix. Of course, I was at the back, but he was P14. But obviously after that lap number 1, I was pretty much with him at the start on the opening lap. So both of us showing that if you do have the car, even on the F1 game, you can eventually get past everyone. So we're now going to get our head down and try and chase after Norris and that elusive podium at Silverstone. But on to lap 22, a very intriguing radio message.
Some information on Verstappen. They're slowing down. It seems like there's some kind of problem with their car.
So our teammate Verstappen, the man who's been dominating this entire race, has got a mechanical issue, and he's going to be limping home to the end of this Grand Prix. So not only am I attacking Norris for P3, Sainz, my former teammate in that Red Bull, doing a great job in P2 versus Ricciardo, floundering down in P6. he might try and attack Verstappen, so it may not be 3 in a row, and it might be a very surprising win for the Red Bull team. But lap 24 then, 3 laps to go in this Grand Prix, including the one we're on, and we're now right up the chuff of Norris. Had a little thought to go into the inside of Village like we did with Ricciardo, but didn't quite have the overspeed there. Norris on the medium tyre, so he's got a bit more of an advantage versus myself, versus Ricciardo. But in the end, I still have the faster compounded tyre, and I'm still feeling good. The tyre wear very low, being on low fuel, of course, and we've only been on these tyres now for, what, about 6 laps here, or 7 laps, and so now we're just trying to set the move up. I'm confident we can get the move done. It's just about when we can do it. Had a look into the field, didn't quite do it. It may just have to be that classic place we overtook 3 cars earlier, just on the back straight towards Stowe as we come through Copse. It's a very good turn, you know, though, on the exit here. Use the ERS boost. We might just get into Beckett instead, to the inside. Oh, it's so close. Norris gives us a good old squeeze, just like his teammate did, Ocon. Don't know what it is about the McLaren cars. They just don't fancy getting overtaken into maggots, but it's happened, and we're up into P3 somehow. We're from last place to 3rd place on the podium, and who knows, it might be more, because this was a move at the exact same time as I made the move on Norris. I'm not even joking. In the background, you can maybe just see I've just made the move on Norris. Sainz made the exact same move on Verstappen, so very, very spooky things there. 2 former teammates making the exact same move, so maybe we just picked up some sort of characteristic and desire to make a move like that at the same position on the circuit from last season. But here we are now, last lap of the Grand Prix. Verstappen is slow, he's limping. Could we make a dive bomb here into the last corner? We go very late on the brakes, but I don't want to risk it because, of course, he is my teammate, so if I tried it, I definitely would have been making some contact with him to get that dive. So in the end, Verstappen will maintain P2, but I'm still very, very happy. 3rd place, our first podium at Silverstone, our home GP, from last place on the grid. I will very much take that, and the driver of the day. But what a shame for Verstappen. It wasn't meant to be. Sainz goes on to win it for Red Bull.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
Well, I know it's a bit of a boring answer, but the truth is they simply had the best speed package on the day, and a driver who knows how to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter how much time you spend poring over the stats and planning strategies if you can't keep the pace, and our winner today showed they could do both.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
So Sainz, to be fair to him, put himself in a really good position, pressurised Verstappen, kept him somewhat honest within 5 seconds, and then that mechanical issue hits, and again, we just seem to be having way more mechanical issues the second we start upgrading the reliability. But I don't know, maybe it's just something we should have expected, because obviously, remember, actually, there's a good point by one of you guys in the comments below. I think it was an episode ago when we first kind of brought it up at the Canadian Grand Prix. But of course, when we switched to Renault, the caveat was switching to Renault. In the email, Carl did say that the Renault power unit could make the entire package more unreliable. So that's maybe what we're seeing here now. Finally, you know, the first few races were all calm, but now maybe we're seeing that little kind of asterisk of, yeah, we might have the best power unit on the grid, which is the Renault power unit, because we saw that at the start of Season 3, but now that little asterisk of, but it may be more unreliable. So maybe that's the thing that's now coming in, but we still maintain the lead in the championship then, with Verstappen obviously eroding a little bit less than he would have, having won that race. Constructors-wise, we're still pretty good, because 2 and 3 is still really great compared to the Red Bulls being so far apart, the Ferraris being a little bit spread out, and also the McLarens as well. So all in all, really good day in the office, actually. The only thing that would have made it better is, of course, us not making that mistake and being further up the grid, because with that kind of pace, and if, let's say, Verstappen had that failure again, if we had to, you know, replay the race and I didn't make that mistake, if he had the same failure, then I could have been the one to capitalise on it, and I would have got the win at the British Grand Prix. And in a way as well, I'm kind of happy Verstappen wasn't the one that got the team's first ever victory at their home race. Like, I want to be the one that could get that victory for us here at this Grand Prix. So maybe maybe it's not a phrase, but maybe 4th time lucky. Maybe Season 4 is the one where we finally break this duck. But guys, if you did enjoy this video, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.